Would you let Jeffrey Epstein watch your kids? Didn't think so. What about his accomplice, Ghislaine Maxwell? Hard pass. So why trust him? Mark Carney, Maxwell's friend, not yours.
Good day. Welcome to the Cory Morgan Show. This is my last one of these before the election this Monday. We'll see what we'll be reporting on a week from now. A few more shows to look forward to, of course. The pipeline will be on this evening. I'm doing my show on Friday. And don't forget, set your favorites on the Western Standard for Monday night. We're going to be doing live coverage of the election. A whole pile of guests, a lot of panels, and just watching those results as they come in so we can smile or mourn or scream or swear or whatever we might do. And you can do all that screaming and swearing and everything else out in the comment scroll, but it's usually better if you're polite about it. This is a live show. I love seeing some participation. Good to see you there. Jordan Mavros coming from the evil East. Wild Rose, Mavros, we might issue you a passport or a visa to come visit us after the election out west here. Paradoxy, good to see all of you guys checking in. Keep the discourse going. It reminds me there's actually somebody on the other side of the camera. I'm not talking to myself as I'm prone to at other times. I got Chris Sims coming on from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. She's going to talk about the costed platforms from the parties that were finally released. They kind of waited right till the end of the campaign period for all of them to do it. The Conservatives waited till the very end. So let's talk about what's good or bad or whatnot within those. As well, Sean Polzer is going to check in from a hydrogen conference, and we'll see what he's been finding out there. All right. So let's talk about some things. As we enter this final stretch of the election campaign, I heard it on the radio the other day. We're starting to hear that tired old line of, if Alberta wants to be at the table, it's going to have to elect some Liberals. Well, let's hope that, as usual, Albertan voters are going to ignore that ridiculous advice. I mean, Alberta does suffer from political predictability in most federal ridings. Conservatives can be prone to taking support for granted across the province, while Liberals can feel there's little gain in addressing Albertan concerns. Rest assured, though, electing a few more Liberals in Alberta won't change anything for the better in the province. I mean, to begin with, that entire premise is an implied threat and an insult to voters. Liberal supporters basically telling people of Alberta, your voice is only going to be heard in government decisions if you bow down and support the Liberals. The elected government is supposed to represent everybody, no matter how they voted. And that should include Albertans who refuse to support a party with a long history of abusing the province. Also, while Alberta traditionally isn't terribly supportive of Liberals in elections, the province has elected many Liberal MPs over the years, and it hasn't done the province a damn bit of good. Every government tries to have a cabinet minister from every province when possible to try and, give a nod to regional balance. Alberta hasn't had a member in cabinet lately, though, despite having two Liberal MPs, and that's because both of Alberta's Liberal MPs have been immersed in scandals to the point where it's impossible to put those clowns in the cabinet. Real quality folks they're giving us. Electing those two certainly didn't do the province any favors. Serial political opportunist Amarjeet Sohi held an Edmonton seat and served in Trudeau's cabinet as infrastructure minister and then natural resources until his electoral defeat in 2019. And during that time, Trudeau imposed tanker bans and the hated anti-pipeline bill C-69, which devastated Alberta's ability to get energy products to Tidewater. Did Sohi stand up for us? No, he never set up people about Alberta's interests while he was in cabinet. He did as he was told. In the 1990s, Anne McClellan was an Albertan Liberal MP who served in several senior cabinet roles, including Health Minister, Minister of Justice, and Deputy Prime Minister. During that time, she ushered in the long gun registry against the wishes of most Albertans, and she fought against Alberta Premier Ralph Klein's healthcare reforms. She was an Albertan in name only at best. Now, there was an exception, Liberal MP David Kilgour, the late David Kilgour, and he was outspoken on Alberta issues, actually, throughout the 90s. He even highlighted the roots of Western alienation in a book that he wrote. But due to his insistence on standing upon principles over party, he never got a senior cabinet role despite serving as a Liberal MP for over a decade. He eventually did quit the Liberal Party in disgust in 2005 and served the remainder of his term as an independent MP. There's never been a Liberal member of Parliament who served Alberta's interests effectively, and there's never going to be one. The Liberal Party of Canada is an inherently Laurentian creature bound to serve central Canada at all costs. If Alberta wants attention from Ottawa, it's got to be through expressing discontent rather than trying to buy Liberal love through electing their bloody MPs. While Conservative members in opposition may not have as much direct power as Liberal MPs do in government, the Conservative members at least are free to speak up on Albertan issues. They can lobby for Western causes and bring them to national attention. Alberta is underrepresented in the Senate already due to Canada's lopsided political system, but thanks to a decade of Trudeau's appointments, most of the senators there are Liberals, though the former Prime Minister claims they're independent. But have any of those independent senators spoken up for Albertans? Senator Paula Simons was critical of C-69 when it went through the Senate, but then she got in line like a good little Liberal and voted it into legislation when push came to shove. Albertans can't expect to gain regional influence through the Senate, but if you really feel we need some Liberals out there, well, there, you got some. The Canadian system's stacked in favor of central Canada, and that won't be changing. Nothing shy of constitutional reform is going to give the West an equal voice in the federal political chambers, and that won't be changing anytime soon. In the meantime, Albertans must vote for who will represent them best, and that's never going to be the Liberals. Sending a Liberal MP to Ottawa just to be gagged and voting as they are, that's not putting yourself at the table. It's just submitting yourself to an abusive relationship. Anyway, that's my thoughts on voting Liberal to be at the table. Kiss my ass. I'm not going to do it. Hey, Dave, how's it going?
I'm depressed, Cory, depressed.
Okay, why so?
Well, I went out to Vancouver for 4 days. My wedding, my son's wedding. Congratulations, Matt and Allie. And it was just beautiful. The grass was green, not a cloud in the sky. The roses were blooming. The cherry trees were just magnificent. And flew back to Calgary on Sunday to this gray drabness.
Yeah,
and snow,
Alberta spring,
and snow the next day, and ice, cars encrusted in ice, and I'm depressed.
Well, the sun will shine
eventually, for a couple of weeks, anyways. I see in my absence you've been traveling the highways and byways of the province again.
I have, yes. I went out and enjoyed the Stoney Nakoda Reserve and the Eden Valley Reserves.
Yeah, why don't you give people the brief background who may not know?
Well, I could. I mentioned a bit on the show before. I did a nice tour of the Siksika Reserve out east of Calgary, showing the deplorable housing conditions and the squalor they're living out there. And in return for that, I got charged with trespassing and fines of threatening $2,000, which I'm fighting, of course.
Of course.
And just to show how cowed and how I'm going to let them stop me from doing it, I went out and toured 2 more reserves. You can go to my YouTube channel, Cory Morgan on YouTube, and see them. And I'll be touring further reserves as time comes until I get a tire punctured by an arrow or something.
Yeah. No, I saw your latest one. It's quite depressing.
It is, and I'm not touring them just to be a jerk. I mean, I am a jerk by nature, but people really need to see what it's like out there. Most, as I say in all of those videos, most people never go to reserve. You don't have a reason to, and that's fair enough. But they don't necessarily understand. They see that CBC version, that north of 60 version of what reserve life is like, and it's not. They're living in third world conditions, and people should be aware of it.
Yeah, and it's not, for the most part, it's not their fault, right?
No,
It's the system that's the problem here.
I insist on saying that over and over again. It doesn't matter who you put there. You stick somebody in those circumstances, they're going to be in a bad way.
Yep, absolutely. Well, keep it up.
Yeah, well, I will.
Keep
until
it up.
Jane finally chains me down. She's not so thrilled with my adventures.
As you can imagine, the election is dominating our website at the moment. Our top item is a column from our Linda Slobodian, and she is predicting if Mark Carney wins, it won't be taking too long for the memes to start coming out with Trudeau's face saying, "Miss me yet." Just like they did with Stephen Harper, "Miss me yet."
How could anybody miss him?
So apparently, it could be horrible. You mentioned Sean Polzer up in Edmonton for the big hydrogen worldwide conference. Big proponent of hydrogen is our premier, Danielle Smith. She's over in South Korea at the moment, but gave an exclusive interview to Sean, and we've got that story up on the site now, and I'm sure Sean will fill you in on lots of other goodies. Jen Hodgson on the scene in Hamilton for a Polyev press conference this morning, talking about how he's going to make changes to the criminal code to make it easier to get rid of these tent cities, because the cops are basically hamstrung at the moment, but he will bring in new laws. Your buddy Klaus Schwab, WEF, he's under investigation.
Oh dear.
Oh no, there's whistleblowers inside the organization that say, he ripped off the organization financially and really wasn't a very nice man to his staff.
A crooked NGO?
Who would have thought it, man?
Unheard of.
Who would have thought it? And my kind of favorite story of the week, the Brantford Boomer. Right, we've all seen this guy. We've all seen this guy.
Out there.
And there's cardboard cutouts of him appearing at the rallies now. And some smart thinker has got himself the Brantford Boomer Twitter handle, and he is posting just hilarious stuff about how wonderful the Liberals have been. Not. Our Jared Yager has put up a top 5 list of his tweets, so it's good fun.
Right. Well, I mean, the guy was made to be just, representative of what the Liberals are representing about right now too. And the people, some of the people who are supporting him, a lot of them, when we look at the poll demographics, they're boomers, or a case basically saying my house is paid off. I'm enjoying the rising, skyrocketing real estate prices. And to all you young people complaining about the cost of living, I got mine.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, there's the Liberals for you.
That's the section of the population that could win them the election.
Yeah.
I know he used to work at a brewery down east, and they've issued a statement saying, "Hey, it doesn't work for us any better. Back off, people."
Yeah, he's speaking for himself.
Exactly.
Well, interesting enough. I mean, it's dark, like I said, with real undertones, but at least it's got some light stuff with it too. I mean, times have changed. The memes and nature of elections. The smallest of weird things can turn into a trend.
It's all fun and games till the Liberal wins.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks, Dave. I'll let you get back in there, taking out some more Liberal stories and.
There's no shortage.
Keeping that pack of reporters functioning out there. So
thanks, Cory.
Thanks for checking in. I'll talk to you after the show. And that is our news editor, Dave Naylor. And he's mentioned, we've got reporters across the country right now. Jared, Jen, Sean, and a columnist, Linda, is always fantastic. Give her a read. And it's right in Aggie, though. Got to pay the bills, guys. We are independent. We don't take tax dollars. And hey, for the next little while, the paywall is down. But after the election, it's got to go back up. And for you to get past that paywall, see all those stories, you got to subscribe. It's $10 a month. I mean, that's nothing, guys. $100 for a year. Just to subscribe to a newspaper without thinking twice. Well, that's what this is about. So if you haven't subscribed yet, get on there, take one out, and nag others to get on and subscribe. And if you've already subscribed, guys, thank you. I do appreciate it. It's what keeps us rolling. Let's see. Bad joke, Jordan. Oh, come on. My jokes aren't bad. Yeah, I know. But I throw all sorts out there. Use those comments. So yeah, what do we got going on? Some of the weird stories. Remember Jessica Yanev? She was that trans person who was. I was talking to Tristan Hopper about her last week, actually, as he wrote about her in his book. I mean, she was just a parody of trans people, a nasty looking man dressed up as a woman who was going into aesthetics places and demanding to have her nuts waxed. And of course they refused, because these are people who work in a place who do, I guess you could call it intimate waxing, but they specialize in women and don't deal with male body parts, which I imagine is a different sort of art to wax. I can't even imagine getting mine waxed. I don't like thinking about that. But either way, then of course she would take them all when they refused to the Human Rights Commission and try to shake them down for money. Either way, a crazy scene for those who remember it. And nutty is all get it. Well, she's resurfaced now, and she's decided she's Métis and given herself some bizarre, long, unpronounceable name. So we can look forward, I'm sure, to some human rights challenges coming out as she's being probably oppressed as a Métis person. I mean, I think she's of Eastern European descent, but everything can be self-identified now, right? Like, that's the ludicrous place we're in the world now. We're supposed to indulge somebody as soon as they say something, and then it makes it true. There's got to be a little more than just saying that. There's got to be a little more than just throwing a skirt on and saying, hey, I'm a woman this hour and I'm a man tomorrow and I'm an it the week after. No, for example, when we talk about prisons, when we're talking about somebody saying, I'm a trans woman, I demand to be housed with women in prison, I can see where that would apply if it's a real trans person. And I know, how do you define real or not? Well, I'll tell you how to define real. Are the nuts still there? Then they go to a male prison. It's not that hard to determine. If they are fully committed and they've had that surgery and those nuts and berries have been chopped off, fair enough. This is a person who is out to make themselves a woman. They're incapable of assaulting women, at least in that sense, and they would probably be very hard treated in a male prison. So you know what? I think it would be fair enough to put a person in that particular circumstance into a facility with other women. That's fine. Why does this have to be so hard? You can draw lines in the sand. People say it's fuzzy. It's a gray area. It's complicated. No, it's not. It's not at all. You are or you aren't. Likewise with athletes and such. I mean, again, we've got means of figuring out who was on which side of that fence or not before you get them in there. Either way, she's back in the news, and I'm sure it's going to be bizarre and weird because that's her nature, and it'll give us something to watch for comic relief as it unfolds anyways. But either way, let's get back on to some more serious stuff, and that's unfortunately the election, and the costed platforms have been released, and I didn't see one I liked in the bunch. I mean, I saw some of this was less bad than others, but I wouldn't call anything good. But let's bring the expert in, Chris Sims from the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Hey, Chris, how you doing?
Wonderful, Cory. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, no, I really appreciate it. And it's your role. You guys are great at that and pouring through those documents and giving us the good, bad, and the ugly within it. What's your rating, I guess, on just the top three, I guess, major parties, Conservative, Liberal, and NDP?
I'll be honest, I didn't look at the NDP because I usually don't look at parties that are polling at under 10%. So
Fair
it's
enough.
one of those things. I did look at the Liberal Party platform and the Conservative Party platform. Did you want to start with the bad first and end on the good?
Sure. I mean, it'll be a short segment at the end for the good, I imagine. But yeah, I don't need to be so cranky. Maybe you saw a bunch of gems in there that I didn't.
So let's start with the bad on the Conservative side. To your point, at the Taxpayers Federation, we definitely would have wanted them to balance the budget. So I don't quite understand why on year 4, you don't need to come right out of the gate and say, I'm going to balance the budget first year, as much as we would like to see that. Year 4, I think they have room there to gently and calmly balance the budget. Now, to be fair, we're in the middle of an election campaign. He's trying to get those 905 votes. He doesn't want to seem mean and scary. I think that if he implements his plans as he's speaking he's going to, meaning, open up the pipelines, get people working, cut taxes, reduce bureaucracy, I think they will be able to balance the budget by year 4. And so that's why I'm surprised that they didn't say so. So that was frustrating. So they are going to be adding more money onto the debt. The Conservatives are going to. Now, it is much less than Carney's going to, and it's much less than Trudeau was going to. But it's still adding money onto the debt. And the debt right now is more than $1.2 trillion. We are spending about the same or the more on interest payments on the debt than the feds send to the provinces for healthcare. That's how much money we're spending just on interest payments. So that was frustrating. As far as the good part of the Conservatives go, we were really happy to see, I think it's more than $70 billion worth of tax relief. That was a big headline in the Globe and Mail. That was outstanding to see that. We saw them saying things like they want to, unleash Canadian energy. That is outstanding. We definitely like hearing that here in the province of Alberta. And the element that I found wonderful, and I wasn't even expecting them to do it, is that Pierre Poilievre wants an Alberta-type Taxpayer Protection Act federally. And correct me if I'm wrong, I think the Canadian Alliance mentioned it back in the day, but as far as it actually being a proposal, I think this goes back to the Reform Party days of hearing a Taxpayer Protection Act at the federal level, meaning if you want to jack up taxes or invent new ones, you got to win a referendum. I last heard serious talk of a referendum on policy issues like taxes back during Preston Manning's time. So we were really thrilled to hear that from the Conservatives. So that was a good thing.
Well, and I like seeing that. Like, I also remember the Balanced Budget Act that Ralph Klein put in the 90s, which, of course, all they have to do, though, is come in and repeal the act, and then they just blow the budget. At least a referenda commitment. I mean, again, they can always repeal that, but it makes it a little tougher. You got to make a little more noise and saying, we've changed our mind. We're not going to give you a choice. Just make it more difficult for the next government to change their mind and raise the taxes. You can only applaud it. I mean, it shouldn't be an easy thing to do.
And what I loved about it is it's usually my litmus test of, what is the press gallery saying? Do they hate it? Well, then it's probably a good thing. So they apparently, I was just speaking with Sheila Gunn-Reid, they were apparently just clutching their pearls and freaking out, saying, well, how on earth is the government going to be able to raise taxes if all these unwashed peasants get a say, it's like, that's the point. Welcome to direct democracy. That's why we don't have a sales tax in Alberta. It works great for us. So I was not expecting that. That was an unexpected, lovely surprise. So happy to see that in the platform from the Conservatives. We would like them, though, to pay down the debt faster and to balance the budget faster. I think on year 4, they were still projecting a $14 billion deficit. Now, compared to the $60 billion plus monster we have right now, that's a drastic improvement. But we would like to see them balance it. I think they can. I think their numbers show that they can do that on year 4, but they just didn't want to say so.
Well, and we know enough about politics to know, as you said, they're trying to win in the 905. You don't want to say out loud that we're actually going to cut some stuff because, of course, as you said, the press gallery is going to go bananas. The usual advocacy groups are going to go nuts. It's sad that we kind of almost have to rely on them and hope that they're kind of lying a bit in order to hope that there's going to be responsible fiscal behavior later on.
Yeah, you got the universal Star Trek interpreter and you're listening really close, right? And so generally speaking, it sounded very good. We would like to see the balanced budget in there, but with them saying they're going to have a Taxpayer Protection Act in there, I think it sets it up well. I'll put it that way. I think it sets all the pieces in place for them to have a really good, strong budget and without all this crazy wasteful spending. And for them to come out and say, we're going to rein in all the wasteful spending, getting rid of consultants is huge. You're saving tens of billions of dollars right out of the gate on that. And if they're going after stuff like that, that means that they could get serious about things like March Madness, which we've talked about before, where every department just blows their budget every single February, March, and it wastes billions and billions of taxpayers' money. If they're going through it to that degree, we're super happy to see that.
All right, so on to the budget we kind of expected, I guess, the Liberal budget. I mean, it's consistent to them. They've never been, presenting themselves as being fiscally conservative in any way, and they didn't surprise anybody.
I'm going to be the weird one here. I was surprised because, I've been in the arena now for close to 30 years covering this stuff, and I think from a kind of a normie is the term we use, a normie's perspective, they're looking at these two guys. They're looking at Pierre Poilievre, and they're looking at Mark Carney, or more importantly, they're looking at Justin Trudeau. And they're looking at Mark Carney. I think most people thought the Mark Carney banker guy was going to be good with money. But turns out the banker is going to be worse with money than the drama teacher. I didn't see that coming. So Carney is actually saying that he is going to pile on more debt, add more money to our huge national debt than Trudeau was planning. He's the banker guy and he's still doing this. That kind of blew my mind. And so I think that they've lost a lot of ground there because he can no longer say, dad's home, like I'm the fiscally responsible Liberal. He can't say that. He can't say I'm the Paul Martin of this red team. I'm going to slay the deficit. That part's gone.
I mean, being an economist doesn't guarantee you're actually any good with money. I mean, Keynes was an economist. It didn't mean that he had a good idea there.
Let's print a bunch of money. Yeah, that's what, and looks like that's what he's going to do too. The other element, if I can I nerd out for a second? Because I read
by all means.
Okay.
This is a nerdy show.
I read the platform, the really kind of hardline one where it's just the event and the money. The part that we found in there that was really interesting, Cory, was finally the carbon tariff. We've got a price tag for that sucker now. So remember back in January, February, when Carney was running for Liberal Party leadership, he made this big grand announcement about how he's changing the carbon tax and he's going to screw us all with this hidden industrial carbon tax, but he wouldn't give us a price tag for it. Another thing he said at the same time, it was in Halifax, was that he was going to impose carbon border adjustments. Carbon border adjustments are carbon tariffs. This is separate and apart from all of his other carbon taxes, okay? Carney loves carbon taxes so much that when he looks around the world and he finds a country that doesn't have one, that upsets him. That upsets him so much, he's going to nail those other countries with a carbon tariff. Meaning, when their stuff comes into Canada, he's nailing it with the carbon tariff, and it's going to make it more expensive for us. They put it in writing. That's going to cost Canadians around million. So $500 million just for his carbon tariff. So I would encourage all journalists to check this out. They call it a border adjustment. That's a term, government term for tariff. So that was good. The part that's missing, though, from his platform is, again, this industrial carbon tax. They're not listing the price tag for Canadians at all. We're running in the dark here.
Well, apparently both parties made an assumption that there's going to be $20 billion in tariff revenue because of the trade war. Now they're budgeting on a variable. I understand they're caught in a rock and a hard place. Maybe Trump will find sanity next week and this will all stop, or maybe this is going to go on for 4 more years. We don't know. Tariff for tariff, well, that's a separate discussion altogether as to how foolish that policy is. But it's pretty presumptuous that sort of revenue is going to be garnered. And again, people can't forget, it's still coming out of our pocket.
This is it. Every time you see the term revenue in a government document, picture the politician mugging you in the street. They're taking your money by force. The government does not have a wealth generating machine under center block on Parliament Hill with like, ooh, how are my investments doing? No, they're taking it from us. That's all taxpayers' money. So when they say revenue, they mean taking your money from you. And so that was really alarming to see that under the tariff element for the carbon tariff. And yeah, you're right. They also budgeted for the, current tariffs that we've got going on now. Let's hope. I really hope that US President Donald Trump just stops talking about this for a little while. That'd be really helpful. If they can nail down a new trade agreement, we know that Premier Danielle Smith was really trying to do her best with diplomatically to get a new agreement. It's just unfortunate that it had to happen right now. Why didn't he wait for 6 months? I don't know.
Yeah, well, bottom line is he doesn't really care.
No, he sure doesn't.
It's just that we'd have to deal with that as we deal with it. Something I didn't hear, though, again, I admit I didn't drill down that hard. Has anybody talked about cutting corporate welfare? There's usually kind of low-hanging fruit. People on the left and the right get upset with that. They'd like to see the dollars stay in the average taxpayer's pocket, but no party seems too eager to take on those corporate buddies they love giving our money to.
Yeah, unfortunately, we didn't see a lot of announcements or big cuts in either platform for those things. We also saw the Liberals really doubling down and saying we are keeping our corporate welfare for electric vehicles or battery-powered vehicles, damn it. Whereas I didn't really see any change happening with the Conservative Party platform. I could stand corrected if I just missed that in their platform. I apologize. But we have not heard a lot about them cutting corporate welfare, and that has to happen. Like so many billions of dollars go out the door where a government decides to play investment banker with your money. And it does 2 things. 1, it wastes money. 2, it warps the playing field for other companies who are not getting government handouts. It makes it unfair. Very similar to what we're seeing with media, right? With the government bankrolling media, okay? They're warping the playing field for direct media or independent media. So you do that on a huge scale with something like a battery company or an electric car company. Like, seriously, why does Volkswagen need our money? Why does Ford, the company, need our money? They don't. And it's funny. Somebody had once taken issue with me for using the term corporate welfare. They're like, oh, that's mean to people on welfare. That's a very right-wing thing for you to say. Actually, it was Stephen Lewis, hardcore lefty, that coined the term corporate welfare. So I found that really interesting, and we need to stop it because it's a huge waste of money.
It absolutely is. And as you mentioned with Volkswagen and Ford, it's not working. I mean, if at least they could point to a success and say, look at all the jobs it created. Look at these factories that blossomed like daisies out there in Quebec and Ontario. No, they took the money and ran.
Yeah, because that's what happens when you get government involved in this stuff. Government sucks at doing everything. They couldn't run a 2-car parade. But here they've got your wallet. I really needed to stress this here because you mentioned the corporate welfare, and that got me thinking about the ban, the very soon looming ban on the sale of new gasoline and diesel powered vehicles. So starting next year, that's when the feds are starting to force out normal sales of vehicles, and they're dictating what percentage have to be battery powered or electric powered. Number 1, that is a huge infringement on your private property rights. You should be able to buy whatever kind of vehicle you want. Number 2, it's a huge waste of money. And 3, we don't have the infrastructure for this. So I've written about this before, and I sat there all long weekend a few weeks ago, and I did the math. Keep in mind here in Alberta, for folks who aren't watching in Alberta, our grid is so shaky that in the wintertime, we get emergency alerts on our phone saying, don't use your hairdryer. You're going to cause a blackout. Imagine everybody plugging in their vehicles on top of this. Cory, if the fairy godmother from Cinderella, bibbity bobbity booed everybody's vehicle and changed them all into an electric vehicle tomorrow, we would need at least 13 huge can-do nuclear reactors. I'm talking the Darlington honkers in Southern Ontario, okay? 13 just for the juice. Just for the juice for passenger vehicles. I'm not touching commercial. I'm not talking about trucking. I'm talking about our own personal vehicles. We need 13 of them. They cost so much money to build. They take at least 10 years each to build, and we're not building them. So we just do not have the infrastructure or the grid for this thing, and it's going to cost so much money. And Carney's all for it. I really hope people read Carney's book. Sorry to rant, Cory, but
That's all right. That's what this show's about.
it's in his book, he wants 80% of our oil and gas to stay in the ground. Carney does. He thinks that 90%, it's all through his book, he believes that 90% of our energy requirements can come from wind and solar. So when he's telling the media he wants Canada to be an energy superpower, he needs to say what he means. Because I don't think you can aim sunshine down a pipe.
No, well, if Carney wins and follows his own advice from his book, at least I guess on my bright side, I suspect my book will suddenly be selling a heck of a lot faster than it has.
What was that about again? That was about what? Sending more money to Quebec? Wasn't that?
Something like that. I'll spare giving my self-serving plug for now.
No, it was on defending Alberta, folks. All joking aside, it was defending the West against Ontario. Yeah,
you could say that. Okay, well, before I let you go, where can people find where you've been digging and writing and putting all this out for us?
Oh, please do. Head on over to our website, taxpayer.com. We post all of our columns. We write for the National Post. We write for the Western Standard. We put stuff in the Sun all the time. So all of our articles are there. But more importantly, and I really mean this, I know a lot of people are struggling right now. Like 50% of Canadians are broke. 50% of Canadians say they're within $200 every month of not being able to make the minimum payments on their bills. And I just finished doing a book tour with Franco, talking about his carbon tax book. And we had people come out for pub nights. The fellowship means a lot to them because a lot of folks are feeling alone. You're not alone. So I would strongly encourage you, sign one of our petitions. You don't need to donate or anything. It's free. And then you're on our mailing list for the next time it's time to storm the castle and send a bunch of emails to some overpaid politician. But that does two things. It gives you a voice and agency because you're yelling at the guy who's taking your money. But it gives you a sense of fellowship because we interact with you ever since then. And lets you know you're not alone. So please head over to our website and sign up.
Great. Well, thank you very much for joining us today, Chris. You're overdue for a visit, I think, actually. And
yes, please.
I appreciate the work you guys do. I really do. So, well, we'll watch and wait, and hopefully some of the wisdom you've spread is spread out to some of the voters. We'll find out Monday night.
Likewise. Keep fighting, Cory. Thank you.
Great. Thanks, Chris. So again, guys, yes, Chris Sims of the Canadian Taxpayers Federation. Yeah, just Google it up. Chris writes stuff, as she said, for the Standard, and I've seen it in the Sun and the National Post and all over. They dig into, as you said, gets nerdy on your behalf, so you can get that encapsulated and just see what this system is doing to you, what that cost is doing to you. And yes, the Canadian Taxpayers Federation, they've been around a long time and doing a lot of great work. So, let's see. Well, I see him waiting in the background there. We've got our own Sean Polzer. He's up in Edmonton. It's not as terrible as sending him to Toronto for something. And he's at a hydrogen conference. How's it going, Sean?
Well, it's better than being bare-assed in Nunavut, Cory.
Yeah, true enough.
Everything going down there.
No, there is that. So this is quite an affair going on. It was kind of quite a grab for Alberta to be hosting this event, I imagine.
Yeah, turns out Edmonton is kind of the center of this nascent hydrogen economy that's budding, not just in Canada, but around the world. And it's an interesting event here. I caught the tail end of your conversation with Chris. So right behind me, we have hydrogen-powered diesel semi. Well, I guess it's not a diesel. You can't really call it a diesel if it's powered by hydrogen. I don't know what they're going to call those things. Hemis? No,
Well,
it's already been done.
So Premier Smith, you had the chance to interview her recently
did.
and
Yeah.
talk about this. She really sees hydrogen as a potential future, I guess, to broaden Alberta as an energy producer. How
Oh,
are they
yeah,
looking to go
absolutely.
about this?
Well, we've got so much natural gas. So at the energy show in Houston, they unveiled the you know what a reserve report is. I'm sure you do. You're in the oil and gas industry. It's basically just an inventory of all the resources that we have. So in addition to about 6 or 7 billion barrels of oil, we've got like quadrillions of cubic feet of gas in the ground, and much more gas than we are ever going to be able to use as, even a country of 30 or 40 million people. So hydrogen is one way you can make. It's called blue hydrogen. So we've got a lot of the infrastructure already in place here because we've been doing natural gas for a long time. We've got a lot of the expertise. We've got the rocks. We've got the rewards. Now we just got to figure out what to do with it. And that's what the premier was saying, is that we need some policy certainty. Whoever wins on Monday, next government we're open to that conversation. The conversation's happening. Life is moving on. So now it's time to just kind of get on with it.
Yeah. So at this conference, I mean, who's kind of gathered there? These other hydrogen producers or potential investors or potential customers? Like, what is the gathering about, sort of?
Well, we've got a really interesting mix. There's quite a few people from Asia, from companies like Mitsubishi and Kawasaki. Ironically, at the same time that the premier is in Asia, there's people from Asia that are over here scoping things out. What's kind of unique about this conference is Edmonton, as you know, is a service center, and it's got the refineries and it's got the facilities out here. And so a lot of the initial hydrogen is just capturing it off the smokestacks. It's pretty low hanging fruit, and there's kind of an entrepreneurial community here that's it's evolved from the oil and gas service sector that's ready to find ways of taking advantage of some of these opportunities. But there again, you need investor certainty, you need a regulatory framework, a lot of questions. Energy Minister Brian Jr. is going to be giving a talk here at about 2 o'clock that I'm going to sit in. So we'll stay tuned for that and see what they have to say. But yeah, the Premier's really upbeat on it. Unlike oil and gas, we don't need big, expensive pipelines to get this stuff out onto tidewater. You can convert it into ammonia, which is already very well established in the agricultural community, and then load it off ships in Prince Rupert, put it on a train, and away it goes. No problems, no Bill C-69, no nothing. It's just a matter of will and doing it. Right now, it's all about demand. Finding new uses for it. I know you guys were talking about the subsidized EV batteries. Well, this sucker is not subsidized.
Well, that's the main thing. Is just stay out of the subsidies, and maybe I can support it.
Yeah.
Well, it's great. I mean, it's too bad Premier Smith happened to be overseas at the same time, but I'm sure the Alberta government, as you said, Mr. Jean's going to be well enough represented there. So we can look forward to a couple of stories coming from you on this to run it down for us.
Yep, for sure. And then we're just working on trying to stream over this interview that I had last night from South Korea. It's unfortunately in Edmonton, the internet hasn't caught up. The free Wi-Fi hasn't caught up with the rest of the technology innovation that we're seeing in this space. So we're just going to have to kind of grit our teeth and bear it.
All right. Well, I appreciate the update. It's a little loud there, so I'll let you get back to rubbing shoulders with all those hydrogen people. I look forward to
hydrogen people. They're the new hippies of the energy economy, Cory.
There we go. All right.
And there's a hockey game tonight, by the way. And I'm from Edmonton, so you know what? It's actually really nice to be back. It's I'm appreciating the things I liked about Edmonton.
Right on. Well,
yeah.
Enjoy what you can of it. All right,
yeah.
John. Thanks
and we'll
for checking
see you later on in the week. Yep.
You bet.
Cheers.
I'll see you at least at election night or Friday. Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Thanks. So yeah, coming from the conference floor there, Sean Polzer. I mean, it's interesting stuff. I mean, we can be an energy producer on a number of levels. That's where I worry. My alarm bells get going a little bit. We've got to watch it. Is stay out of the subsidies. Hey, if this is viable, we don't need to put tax dollars into it. As Sean said, we need certainty, though. You need regulatory certainty. You need to know the government's going to allow you to develop it. That's what we need to work on. And we don't know what the next government's going to be like. Jacqueline with a good question. How do you get the ammonia to Tidewater? I think Sean briefly mentioned it. He was talking, we could probably do a lot of it by rail. It's a more concentrated form. Though I'm not an expert in hydrogen by any means, but it's something we have an abundant ability to produce. I noticed, who was it? Jordan talking about a hydrogen car, hydrogen fuel cell car. I'm not opposed to electric vehicles, hydrogen vehicles, any of these. They've just got to be priced right and they've got to be useful. I don't want the government to have to make it affordable to me, because that means it's still just pulling it out of my pocket and subsidizing it for me to buy it later. If the car can be delivered to market, it's reliable enough and useful enough to me, I will move on to that. I live on a small acreage with limited flat ground on it. And I mean, I get my steps in every week because I kind of need some exercise through mowing my lawn manually with a 20-inch mower. I like it. I like getting out and pushing the mower around. But that old gas mower is getting towards its last legs. And I've been looking at what's for sale now at, Home Depot, places like that. And you know what? Those electric mowers, finally, not the ones that were plug-in, you used to run the cord all the way to your house and you'd usually run the thing over and cut your own cord and make a mess. I remember those all too well. No, rechargeable electric mowers, and they've gotten really good. And they've gotten into a price point that starts to make sense. So I don't have to deal with gasoline. I don't have to deal with the noise or whatnot. Even I'm probably going to switch, but you know what? The reason I'm switching is because it serves me, not because the government told me to, not because I want to be greener, not any of those things. It's because the mowers are now at a price point and a reliability level, and the batteries hold a charge long enough that it's useful for me. And if it wasn't useful, the next mower I would go out would still be going out and getting a gas powered mower. Let's see. Dark Rope saying, on top of the fact China controls over 60% of the minerals in the world, do we want to support slave labor? Okay, that's getting into a bigger discussion. The irony, the hypocrisy, though, of green movements, it's an interesting point as well that people overlook. They act as if alternative forms of energy somehow don't have an impact. Of course they do. And yes, batteries, one of the challenges with batteries is they use a heck of a lot of minerals that are very difficult and expensive to get. And they can do a lot of environmental damage in the process. Or as Paradoxy pointing out, too many batteries in the landfill. We got to watch how we're disposing of things. These are problems that can be overcome, but they're still problems. We can't pretend that there's not an impact in making these. So, I mean, if you're going to do this cost benefit, if you're talking again about, fossil fuel powered vehicles versus these battery powered ones, well, be fair with it. Look at it and see this isn't some emissions free. I mean, there's an old cartoon that's been around for a long time showing some, vapid peckerhead with his electric vehicle saying, I'm greening the world. Look at that. Look at that nasty guy with a car with an exhaust pipe. And of course, it shows just a little cable going off in the background. And there's the energy plant pumping out all the smoke from where it's making the electricity to power that car. Don't pretend these things don't have an impact. It's just moving it somewhere else. So these discussions got to go on. And it gets scary, as Chris was talking about, when the government's talking about banning gas and diesel vehicles. This is stupid. We aren't ready to switch yet. We aren't ready on every level. As she said, we don't have the generation capacity. These vehicles aren't good enough yet. They aren't affordable enough yet. And this is going to really screw our economy. We are a personal automobile owning economy. I've only got a minute or two left, so I can't go on the whole down road of it. But I'll tell you what, one of the whole underlying things when you get these socialists, these globalists, these authoritarian buttholes who are constantly trying to control everything about us. You want to know one of the things they hate is the personal automobile. It gives you agency, the ability to travel, the ability to find a new job somewhere else, the ability to commute somewhere else, the ability to just go wherever the hell you like, whenever you damn well like. They hate that. It's not the environment that they're worried about when they don't like you having that car. It's your freedom they don't like when you have that car. That's what bothers them. That's what it comes to when you get to, it's similar to, I'll tie it all the way into the bike lanes. And Art Mark Carney talking about banning the other vehicles. It's not a matter of saving the environment, and they don't really expect you to get into the electric vehicles. They also, in the bike lanes, they don't expect you to get on a bike and ride it. They want you to get on public transit. They want you to get on government-owned, controlled transportation, where they will always have you under their thumb, where you will never have that personal agency. You'll have to buy a ticket, register, and go where they allow you to go. It's not a conspiracy, guys. Just look at it. It's just the reality. The importance of the personal automobile is far more than a lot of people realize, and we can't be giving it up. All right. That's what I got for today, guys. Thanks for tuning in. Like I said, there's a lot. This is an important, crazy week. Tonight, the pipeline will be on. Nigel and Derek and I are going to be discussing some things. Friday, again, Nigel's going to have his show on. I think that comes out Thursday night. Friday, I got my show starting at 11. More guests, more topics. And, of course, Monday night, 6 o'clock, we're covering the election live. Make sure to tune in here. Share it. Let's beat legacy media. You don't have to go on the TV anymore. We're here to cover it. We will have up-to-date info for the entire election coverage that night. All right. Thanks for tuning in today, guys, and we'll see you all on the next one.